the field of marketing, the more you spend, the more you get. That's not always the case. And I alluded earlier to, we don't have a choice. We're in a market where we have to say no to business at times. That doesn't happen very often, and it's remarkable, but it means that we have to be incredibly disciplined about how we target customers, how we spend the dollars that we have. So I think myth number one is probably you don't have to spend as much as you think. It's still significant, and the ROIs are phenomenal right now. But at the same time, be very targeted, be very careful.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining the Boredom Club today for another episode. My name is Yossi Garmazi, and I'm joining also by a good friend of mine, Senat Muli. Senat.
Hey, Yossi. Hey, Daniel. Really happy to be here.
So today we are fortunate enough to interview none other than Daniel Bounds, Chief Marketing Officer of Nebius, a company that revolutionizing how other companies, actually an organization, build, scale, and deploy AI infrastructure. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. The pleasure is ours. So, Daniel, I want to start with a very interesting question about your background because it is a unique one. You actually worked at the hardware part before coming to Nebius, right? In HPE and AMD, of course, that we just interviewed Chief Commercial Officer and the head of data centers there. But I was curious, how does that silicon level perspective influence how you market now a cloud service compared to traditional SaaS marketer?
We live in remarkable times. This is really what we as an industry have been working towards for the better part of 20 or 30, maybe even 40 years to get to this point where we can offer AI cloud infrastructure that's purpose-built in the form of a cloud, in the form of a service. I started my career way back with a company called Compact Computer that doesn't even really exist anymore. Hewlett-Packard consumed that and have continued to look for new and interesting ways to have an impact on this industry, from industry standard servers to high performance servers to the Epic processor. I got to be part of the founding group that established that in the market. And then I've also spent some time with the storage elements of our offering, a little bit of time with EMC, and then about 4.5 years with a company called Vast Data that's very focused on AI and really being the data layer for this beautiful cake that we're building for the full pipeline of AI. So it's been an exciting ride, and I love talking about it.
And you mentioned Epic. I remember when we hosted Phil Guido, so he had this Epic poster on the background. So it was funny. And indeed, Nebius is scaling commercially all over the place, but serving both developers and the enterprise buyers. Can you explain operationally the difference between the two? How do you approach this?
We service businesses, and businesses are made up of lots of different types of humans. Everybody from the AI engineers and the data scientists to the line of business managers, the general managers, procurement, et cetera. And so one really key takeaway for anybody in the field of marketing, especially in high technology and in cloud, is understanding that the buying group is extremely varied. And it's also varied in time. So developers understanding their needs, solving their needs, and really starting to develop a community with them is a very long lead life cycle. So we spend a lot of our marketing dollars, our marketing effort creating communities, whether it be online or physically, going to meetups or going to hackathons. We've also started this series that's really interesting where we've asked for submissions of previous work, and we'll have a panel of peers across the industry that will designate awards that we give so that these developers really get the recognition. And, we tack on a bunch of GPU hours to that so that they can continue their great work. But for us, it's making sure, first and foremost, that we're creating a cloud and an infrastructure stack that does address the needs from DevOps to AI ops across the landscape so that we can attract a very wide swath of these developers that are the underpinning of where the enterprise is going to invest today. And today, they're proof of concepting, they're getting into production, but they're not, that gap between early experimentation and production, it's still there. And they're trying to bridge that. We want to be a great cloud for them to experiment. We want to be an even better cloud as they scale and infuse AI into the entire application landscape.
It's fascinating. And I was also curious to ask you, when you look at the developers, do you see themselves as sort of like one population, or do you somehow treat them separately by geographies or by any other criteria?
So one of the most interesting things to solve as a marketer is small AI startups who are commanding a huge amount of time on AI clouds. They wear multiple hats. So founders will be the business leaders. They'll also be the head developers. It's not a one size fits all. And so as you're looking at AI native startups, kind of growing into this, what we call AI scalers, where they've established themselves. They've got a great technology, but now they're trying to scale it. A lot of times being either consumed or moving into an adjacent either company or industry. We look at that one way. And then when we look at traditional enterprises, and typically when we talk about enterprises, we're talking about segments of the larger enterprise market. So media and entertainment, retail, e-commerce, et cetera. They look at development very differently. They have many more resources. They have many more processes, and they have many more requirements when it comes to things like compliance and security and SLAs. They just have a more complex problem to solve. And so we separate those. So the developers who are from an AI native perspective, they get a huge amount of attention, not just from our technical side, but also helping them with go to market, helping them establish connections in the VC market. There's a full 360-degree view of what we can do as a partner for these AI native startups. And who knows, maybe someday they're going to graduate to the likes of OpenAI or Anthropic. Everybody starts at the same place, essentially. But then we also want to have a full and robust capability when it comes to developers who are developing for commercially, global, multifaceted corporations that also want to take part in this AI revolution. We want to have the tool sets, the cookbooks, and the technical capabilities that they all are asking for.
I love it. It's all about community-led growth in a way. You never know what you're gonna get, as they say, right? You help someone when it's small, and then you get bigger. So you never know.
Yes, we love to grow. We love to grow with our customers. That's why whether it's investing in our communities that are touching universities, which we do a lot of, very small scale AI native startups, and then by the time they're Series D, Series E, they're starting to get a lot of traction. We also have capabilities that we want to grow there as well. So we have a very significant startup practice.
If you look at your ICP over the years, do you see that it changed drastically during the last 5 years in terms of, let's say, foundational models or any other sort of enterprise that you need maybe now to actually market to, or not necessarily?
100% the world changed in the last 5 years. I've been in and around this market for 30 years, and I probably look at, but yeah, the rise of ChatGPT, the rise of OpenAI, and everyone in that hyperscale cohort have changed the game. And they put everyone essentially a long time ago on notice that if you fail to take advantage of this wave of innovation, you're going to be relegated to the dustbin of technology. So we still look at those as incredibly important ingredients in our overall go to market and our overall business. We've signed, I think over the last 6 to 8 months, we've signed $47 billion worth of hyperscale contracts that will happen over a 5-year period. And those are great. They're absolutely important. But as we think further in time, the adoption curves from an enterprise perspective will start to ramp materially. And as they do, that's where the more traditional view of what an enterprise account is. ISVs are incredibly important. They tend to be fast adopters and fast scalers. And then moving down, like you said, placing bets with AI scalers and AI startups so that over time, as the market continues to evolve and adapt, we're right there with them. And we talk about the likes of Microsoft and Meta at the top. We talk about the Cloudflares and maybe the Pfizers who are like really traditionally viewed enterprise customers, but also looking to adopt AI, down into the scalers where you've got, BFL and Runway and all kinds of customers who are growing their ARR is eye-popping. But at the same time, they're still on a very fast growth trajectory and not at all like an enterprise.
I agree. And I can tell you that from the outside, it was magnificent to see all the growth trajectory of Nebius. It was actually funny. We didn't know, but one of our past speakers turned out to be one of the board members in Nebius, Kira Radinsky. So suddenly,
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know that she is a board member at Nebius, but suddenly she posted about the hyperscaler deal that you actually mentioned with Microsoft. And I said, oh, small world.
It's a big thing for us. This business is the scale and growth of this business is remarkable. I've never seen anything like it, and I don't know that anyone really has. It's a balance of getting access to capital, which we have proven we're pretty good at, getting access to raw materials, a la power, GPUs, land, etc. But also, and this is what really sets us apart, is building a very extensible, easy to use, but powerful software stack on top of that. It's one thing to build a supercomputer that can handle the likes of AI computation. It's another to offer that from a cloud perspective. And we feel like we're uniquely positioned to offer both of those.
It's all new world altogether, and it's exciting indeed. Okay, so we mentioned the ecosystem in Microsoft, and another big company, of course, the biggest of them all now is Nvidia. And indeed, the physical AI data factory blueprint with Nvidia that was major milestone for Nebius, right? But how did this partnership come together, and what does it signal for Nebius, say, for the next 12 months?
I think the way that what people refer to as neo cloud or AI cloud specialists, I think that the way that this market started to take form was just GPU as an hour being served. And the applicability, the extensibility, the scalability, all the ilities of the cloud piece were a bit of an afterthought. So, of course, it takes somebody like Nvidia, who in this industry is an anchor. There's a reason they're the most valuable company. They're an absolute anchor in this inflection point that we're seeing with AI. For us, we took our technical knowledge. So one of the things, again, that I think sets Nebius apart is the bench we have from an engineering perspective. Everything from designing the hardware, the FETs we choose on the motherboard, all the way up into the rack and the row and the free air cooling that we design in, and just everything from a hardware perspective is great. But then that doesn't stop. It continues to roll up into the orchestration layer. It gives us an advantage with someone like NVIDIA where we can partner and really provide value bidirectionally. So hats off to Jensen and team. They've continued a very fast and significant drumbeat of technologies, but those technologies have to be usable. They have to be tested, they have to be validated. And we have the distinct privilege of operating with them in both the stand-up of current and future generations. And we signed a strategic partnership. And one would argue, aren't you already a strategic partner? What we wanted to do with NVIDIA was continue to strengthen things like early access and things like debugging and technical aspects of the go-to-market that help us bring new technologies like what we're developing now with Blackwell, but more importantly with Vera Rubin and the next generation after that, making sure that it's not just available, but it's highly usable, it's highly scalable. And what we're doing provides actual value and advances this entire wave from generative to physical to agentic and beyond. We want to be at the forefront of how those technologies get serviced and most importantly, scale into the enterprise.
If I'm not mistaken, you alluded to the $2 billion investments of NVIDIA on Nebius. So that was actually my follow-up question, because as a marketing leader of a company like Nebius, how do you build a strategy that brings those strengths of Nebius to the forefront of both brands, meaning Nebius and NVIDIA at the same time?
Part of it is we align our go-to-market. So we are very specific with the way that we go and identify customers and then service those customers. The physical AI blueprint that you just talked about, every unique and individual segment of the industry has unique requirements. And again, hats off to NVIDIA. They've done a nice job developing software for those individual segments of the market. Our job is to go and address the entire solution stack. We base it off of Nvidia technology in all the cases that we have in market right now, and we'll continue to extend that. So for us, that's the way that we align our joint go-to-market. We're offering a solution that is built off of both Nvidia's technologies as well as ours. And it's a recursive loop. Customers tell us what they like and what they don't like. We have a great line of communication back to San Jose that I think is valuable for them as much as for us.
It's definitely interesting time to say the least. And Nebius also announcing and launching a lot of new products along the way. But from your perspective as a marketing leader, do you have any metrics that you continuously look after when you do all of these big launches? Because it's both for the enterprise and product developers all over the world. I mean, is it customers traction, performance benchmark, maybe sort of like partner validation somehow, or something else?
We have lots of metrics that we pursue from a company level perspective. I'll speak to the marketing aspects of this. My background, my training, everything has always pointed me towards marketing being the source of pipeline for the company. That's a future looking conversation. When we have a launch, we create excitement, we create awareness. And there's lots of ways you can measure awareness, from attendance to engagement, the eyeballs that you drive. We actually invest in a lot of advertising. So if you drive down the 101 and in San Francisco, you're going to see Nebius billboards. If you call an Uber, you're going to see Nebius ads. We definitely have a lot of focus on awareness. But for us, we live in an interesting time, to keep borrowing that phrase, because the demand and supply curves are very strangely oriented right now. There's a lot of demand, so much so, and so little supply, that we have to think about that when we market the product. And so this whole concept of knowing your account and really targeting them specifically, that actually means more to us in this day and age than large numbers. We can go and generate lots of eyeballs. We can go and generate lots of opportunities. But if those opportunities can't be serviced, it's useless to us. So our focus as a marketing organization at Nebius has very much been focused on understanding the finite number of industry verticals that we want to go and be successful in by solution area, by use case, and then identifying those companies where we want to go out and have a conversation with them because we think we can service them better than anybody else on the planet. So it really is more customer, more account-based oriented metrics of success, a la pipeline, closed won business, that drive us.
I would say it's very beneficial for you and for the developer themselves that they can actually see the opportunities out there. And I was also curious to ask you, last question for myself before I pass the mic to Senat. So you are all over the place, 7 sites operational, 10 in development. I think you just opened one in Alabama, one in Finland. So overall, something like what? 3 continents, right? A lot of physical infrastructure, but what is the biggest marketing challenge when you expand all over the world for not 1 continent, but 3, as I mentioned?
Having global expansion is absolutely critical. Being able to continue to just offer sheer capacity is very important. But the most important aspect of what we can do is provide a customer experience that is positive and invites further investment. We love our customers, and we love it when they love us even more and want to continue to grow with us. Is our intent to grow with every customer that we get. Some of that comes in the form of capacity. Some of it comes in the form of additional services and offerings. So, of course, we offer both on-demand as well as reserved GPU instances where people can license tens of thousands if they want, or they can license by the drip and use our self-service portal. But as they scale, there's inevitably, they need additional managed services. They need more capabilities from a data management perspective. And then across their entire AI pipeline, they need abilities to test, validate, to fine tune. And we wanted to offer, or we do offer, a full range and complement of services that allow them to do that. The challenge is making sure that everybody knows about that, and then also identifying the value propositions for each step of that pipeline and communicating that with those customers. Customers in general, regardless of where they are, there's latency issues associated with some businesses. There are sovereignty issues that we run across. But by and large, we're designed as a global cloud. We're going to offer everything to everyone. And then we just need to convince them that it's the best value to them on the planet. And it's not about the cost of GPU per hour. It's about, or even the cost of a token per fixed period of time. It really is about how valuable that capability can be to powering their business and monetizing AI.
It's a new world, and we mentioned expanding to 3 continents, right? Now people talk about data center in space. So I don't know, maybe we see some advertisements of Nebius there, right? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? Right now, we're very excited about the expansion plans that you just mentioned. Most of our expansion that we've announced recently has been focused on North America. It's a huge market for us, but obviously our roots, we're an Amsterdam-based company, but we all operate globally between Europe, Middle East, Asia, and North America. We are growing like crazy and have plans to continue to do that for the foreseeable future. But no plans for space yet. Not that I'm aware of. I wouldn't put anything past our executive team. Kadi is a visionary. He's done it before. He'll do it again. But right now, we're going to stay on this planet.
Okay, the imperative word is yet. So, yeah, funny indeed. Okay, so Daniel, thank you so much for answering all of my questions. Yes, Sanat, there's also some fascinating one to ask you. So, Sanat, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Yossi. I know, Daniel, you kind of touched upon, some of the hardware expansion as well as software expansion. Zooming in a little more, recently Nebius acquired the agentic search company Tavily. How does adding specific AI application tools like agentic search sort of change the story you tell about being an infrastructure-first cloud?
I think that there's a misnomer there of an infrastructure first cloud. So what we want to do is help customers service and solve their AI challenges. And a lot of that has to do with software, even more so than the hardware that underpins it. This is a challenging time. We as an industry have been waiting for decades for software and hardware to align so that we can do things like training and inference at scale very cost effectively. And we're there. It's happening. The cost per GPU hour has never been lower. The cost to consume services at scale has never been lower. And so all the conditions are right. However, if you're in the midst of it, you know that there are lots of minute challenges and some gigantic challenges in terms of ingesting lots of data, synthesizing that so that your content and your context match up. The richer the model, the better the result. The better the result, the more you can do with it. But then you also hit the scale button, and it's very difficult. And we also are an industry where one of our greatest limitations is intellectual power in the form of humans. And so as we continue to make acquisitions like Tavily, we're not only adding capabilities, in this case, agentic search, across the landscape of services that we'll offer, we're also helping customers solve problems that they otherwise would be very challenged to do from a human intellectual perspective. And so that's part of what we're trying to do as well, is create a more dynamic, more useful value proposition, regardless of how that looks. We have a product we didn't acquire it, we actually built it from scratch, called Token Factory. It changes the way that customers can consume our infrastructure. There's lots of inference players out there, inference on demand, tokenized inference. What we do is we natively own the infrastructure. We built that out. It's best in class. We think it's going to yield a better cost advantage over time. But then we layer on top of that the range of models that people can consume, kick the tires, fine tune, develop, and then go the extra mile and actually build into their enterprise applications. So for us, it's about breadth of offering and making sure that customers know that when they choose Nebius, they're not just choosing infrastructure, they're choosing a lot more.
That was a very nice answer. And I know you touched upon your training in marketing-led growth and strategic use of advertising for brand awareness. Talking a little bit more about marketing. In your view and your experience, like what is the biggest myth about marketing AI that you'd like to debunk? Maybe around Nebius or in your previous roles?
There's lots of ways that I would like to answer this question. One of the biggest ones that is in the field of marketing is the more you spend, the more you get. That's not always the case. And I alluded earlier to we don't have a choice. We're in a market where we have to say no to business at times. And that doesn't happen very often. And it's remarkable, but it means that we have to be incredibly disciplined about how we target customers, how we spend the dollars that we have. So I think myth number one is probably you don't have to spend as much as you think. It's still significant, and the ROIs are phenomenal right now. But at the same time, be very targeted, be very careful. I think the second thing is most marketing organizations of let's call them enterprise scale, 1,000+ customers or 1,000+ employees, they forget that marketing's fundamental solemn duty is to create future demand for the company. They get caught up in the words they use, the graphics they put out, the awareness metrics that don't necessarily attach back to pipeline. I think for those who are either entering or right in the middle of where marketing is in high technology right now, and specifically in AI, it all maps back to how you're building a strong and vital pipeline for the company. And so deviating from that, missing that point, you're just you're bathing in the mythology of marketing at that point, and it will definitely not pay the dividends that the marketing can. Marketing is a field that doesn't sit alone. It is highly integrated into every facet, whether that's sales operations, pricing, customer experience. All of these elements have to work together from a beautiful concert. And once the music really starts to tune up, it's amazing what can be done, specifically when you have such a hot market like AI.
Absolutely. And then kind of digging a little more into that, the question everyone kind of asks right now, but how are you using AI in marketing? How do you think AI generated content are changing the discipline of marketing, both at Nebius, but also in general, what you've seen across the landscape?
We're obsessed with return on investment, just like everybody else. And AI gives us an advantage on the cost side. So typically, what we can do with AI is create scale, whether that's through content, whether that's through outreach, even the way that we're thinking about all of our social media, the eyeballs that we drive to our website, and every aspect of that is now being seen through the lens of AI. First touch, multiple touches with an interactive AI gives us the ability to bring them through the customer journey faster and more efficient. So we look at it that way. We're in this amazing time period where so much innovation and experimentation is happening. And for us, that's our website. That's our social. That's when we go to, even when we go to physical events, AI is there with us. And we're looking at avatars that help tell our story and help demonstrate our product. When we do a demonstration of our product, we're looking to AI to help us bring it to life. And then, of course, I talked about account based marketing and the targeting. Every tool set on the planet is integrating multiple steps of AI so that we can very clearly and cleanly get to the real heart of who the customer is, how we target them, and then measure, track that, follow up. Follow up is huge. And so the more we can automate with AI there, the better off we are. All of that is to say, humans are not excluded from this renaissance of marketing excellence. Quality and inspiration still come from the staff that we have. And I'm very proud of the staff that we've developed at Nebius. And it really is just an extension. We're still hiring like crazy. We're still growing like crazy. But every marketer on staff now is able to do more and more based off of the tool sets that we're giving them.
You mentioned the full loop of feedback, which you're getting via AI for your marketing. Nebius, obviously, they've done data center expansion. They've also built out Token Factory. I guess, where do you kind of believe modern B2B marketing over indexes today? And where is it still under investing?
I'll tell you where I think we're under investing tactically. I look at the landscape of websites out there and they're all static. They'll have a chat bot that you can interact with, and it's clearly been trained on some interesting content. But the reality is we haven't unlocked the customer journey with AI the way that we should. And I don't see anybody doing a great job with that right now. I think it's a huge opportunity, and you can bet it's one that we're working on. Where else? Well, there's not like a universal rule of thumb. I'll speak for myself. I think that there still is an opportunity to continue to invest in enablement. I like to think that everybody inside of our go-to-market organization is marketing, everybody is sales, everybody is operations. And now we have the ability to use AI to get everyone educated, to provide fast access to content and help them be that salesperson and be that marketer. So I think enablement is still an area that typically doesn't get the degree of funding that it should. And also the quality of content that is needed to train and extend your field. It is instrumental in making sure that everyone is consistent. Part of marketing's job is not just creating high impact, remarkable pipeline generation, remarkable content, remarkable engagements. It's about consistency. The larger and faster that these companies are growing, the more inconsistent things can be, especially when you have a founder mentality. That's great. It goes out and it finds business. It's very sticky. It's attractive. But over time, you have to graduate into highly consistent, curated messages. They don't all have to be super slick like you'd put in front of a Fortune 50 bank. The developer messaging that we put out is quite edgy and a little bit gritty, and it services the market. But you have to do that, and you have to make those investments. And I think all of us in this industry still have ways to go there.
Building remarkable pipelines with consistency is key. And then kind of moving on to some of your experiences, what advice would you give to builders navigating today's environment, whether they want to build marketing pipelines or building the next AI company? What would your advice be?
So nothing in this industry happens without data. You can't get the budget that you want. You can't get the operational efficiency that you want. You can't get anything that you want if you don't have a solid data pipeline. And that's essentially, that is the lifeblood of this topic called AI that we're talking about. It's also just a fundamental business principle. You can't manage what you can't see, you can't measure. And so for us, it's making sure that in the midst of high growth, you tend to make some mistakes and you make them small, you correct them, and you learn from the data. I think that's an important lesson. I've gone through Dell, Cisco, just name. I've been around. I've done a tour of the industry. No one gets it perfect, for sure. The larger companies have different issues with the data integrity, with what's coming out of their CRM, how that's passing through into their automation tools and the rest of their marketing stack. It's complicated, and we weave a very tangled web. So if I am early in my career, I'm spending a lot of time focused on understanding the type of data points that are getting generated by the marketing team and how those then translate to wise decisions, because later you have to make those decisions. There is art to marketing, but there's also a lot of science. And that would be my greatest encouragement is avail yourself of as much data education as you can. I think every time I'm looking at candidates, having some kind of a data math, some kind of a science-oriented background is really interesting. I look for technical poets, people who can really understand the fundamentals of what we're bringing to market, but also have an ear for what psychologically we as humans are attracted to and what makes sense for us to come full circle now, right? We've got different ICPs and different personas all of them consume in different places and in different ways. It's the marketer's job to attenuate those messages so that everybody is convinced this is the leading, the preeminent AI cloud on the market.
Awesome. And so through this journey, who has had the biggest impact on you as a mentor and why?
Yeah, I thought about this. I was thinking about it the other day. I've had the privilege of having great managers, and I've also had the privilege of having some really horrible managers. And you have to learn from both. And I'm not going to name names, but every
Hey, nobody listen. Nobody listen. So I'm just
no,
kidding.
yeah, um, you know, part of this comes back to fundamentals of marketing and fundamentals of leadership. And so when you have a manager with a philosophy that experiment all you want, right? Your successes are yours, your failures are mine. Now we've taken off the table a reason to not go and investigate, to explore, to experiment. And this market is all about getting the competitive advantage. It's about hacking the system. And so enabling your employees, your marketers to go and hack the system and know that you have their back, incredibly important. And so I salute the folks who have been in my life and in my career that have provided that for me, and I look forward to passing it down. I think where I've seen the most problem is where individuals forget that it's a human element. We are extending our capabilities through AI, but there's humans involved as well. They're magical computers, humans. They can do all manner of both art and science, but you have to respect the process and what it takes to get there. And so, yeah, I've learned from the good ones and the challenging ones. I had a little stint at Cisco, and I loved working for John Chambers. I didn't report to him, but there was a lot of vision. He taught me a lot about establishing vision for a large organization so that it can zero in on an objective and be very efficient in the way that it executes. He's one of the few that really stands out that I will name, but everybody loves John, so that's not that big of a deal. So I'll go with amalgamation.
Super cool. If you could have coffee with anyone, alive or historical, who would it be? Whether it's in the industry, it could be John Chambers, it could be anyone else.
That would be lovely. I would love to have coffee with John. I have so many questions for him. There are titans in our industry that have made a gigantic impact. I go back to what I would imagine 9 out of 10 people answer, which is the Warren Buffetts of the world who develop an intuition through decades of investigation, decades of reading, decades of, again, I go back to we're all amazing computers in our own right. Our brains are capable of so much. And he is proof positive that you can take data, you can synthesize it, and you're a prediction machine. That's all AI is a prediction machine. And he's proven to the world that how he synthesizes and how he predicts is a cut above the rest. And so that to me is fascinating. That would illuminate a ton for me as I think about the rest of my career.
Cool. Yossi, you want to ask this one?
We do have two last questions.
Okay.
Yeah, if, I think they are the most interesting ones. So if you're now in an alternate universe, you're not a
Yes.
marketing guy, what profession would you take on?
So that's a good one. In case you haven't picked it up, I enjoy the dynamics of building organizations and finding the best in people. I started off when I was in high school and in college running track and field. I think if everything else was taken off the table, I love the spirit of athletics and track and field and being able to find and refine and build how you get to that last second. It's the precision of what can be achieved. I just love that. I love the competition. It's something that's innately a part of us, and it really comes out in all the best ways. So yeah, I think I might be a track coach.
Track coach is actually interesting. I watched a video the other day that basically they say, okay, you train for 4 years and then you need to perform in 10 seconds or like 20 seconds. And so it's incredible what you expect from these people. And Then you say, and when I see someone that something doesn't go up to his or her plan and they get worried and like, dude, I need to do it in 10 seconds every 4 years.
Well, that and there's always doubters. And I think that nothing motivates us more than someone telling us we can't do something. I think that even applies to our industry. There's so many people who doubt what is happening and doubt the capabilities. And we talk about these gigantic numbers and, well, it's, it's a bubble or it's going to take more time than you think. I mean, the answer is maybe, but the reality is don't tell us we can't do it because that's exactly when we're going to go and do it.
Go get it, as they say. And okay, so last question. What is your favorite movie of all time?
That is maybe the hardest question you've asked me. I tend to migrate to character actors. And so I'll take the easy way out and say any movie with Daniel Day-Lewis. I love the way that he embodies the character and just gets the most out of the performance. I typically put on a movie like that, and 2.5 hours later, my brain re-engages, and I'm so mesmerized, so transfixed. That's, as a marketer at heart, that's all we really want. We want to create an experience. We want to create a message. We want to create an engagement that just transforms you so much that you're paying attention, that you want to know more. You want to dig through that journey and get to the point where you're the hero. That's the narrative. That's the story that we want to create. And so I love all these movies.
And I think he is one of the best methodic actor that I've ever watched. And he actually got back out of retirement to play in his, I think, son or daughter movie. So it's exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, just so much respect. So much respect.
2 Oscar winners or like 3. Sorry, Daniel, if I missed one. Not you, the other Daniel. So
He'll put a comment in when he's listening to this podcast.
oh man, I hope so. It will get us to the out of the room. So Daniel, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been a joy hosting you. A really honest conversation. So we learned a lot. So thank you so much, really. And for everybody else in the audience, so stay tuned. We have other interesting guests to show you. We just hosted the president of Cisco, president of ServiceNow, and a bunch of other marketing folks. And watch the shorts of this specific episode. It's really good. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
It's
Daniel.
my pleasure. Thank you so much.